Sometimes life scatters us like dandelion seeds, carried by winds we didn't choose, into soil we didn't prepare. But every seed carries a lesson. This is a space to search for truth, to find peace, and the peace of the Lord within you. I'm Imana, and this is Dandelion Chronicles. Sometimes we look at our lives and wonder, how did I get here? Why does this feel so familiar? Why do I keep ending up in the same situations, just with different people? But if you've ever watched a dandelion, you already know the answer. Because dandelions don't grow randomly. They grow from seeds. Seeds carried by the wind, seeds planted in soil that they didn't choose, seeds that took root before they even knew what they were becoming. And in the same way, many of the patterns in our lives began long before we were aware of them. There's something I heard within myself recently. Beautiful spirit, wounded soul. And when I sat with that, I realized something. The seed was never the problem. My spirit was never broken, but the soil had been wounded. One of the earliest seeds in my life was absence, the absence of my father. I only saw him a couple of times as a child. And through my young eyes, it didn't feel like love. It felt like I didn't matter. It felt like his presence had nothing to do with me and everything to do with something between him and my mother. So I created meaning. I told myself, he doesn't care about me. And when a child believes that, it becomes a seed. But my spirit still longed, so I created a different story, a fantasy father, one who would come to find me, one who would choose me, one who would save me. I remember riding the bus, looking at the faces of the men inside and outside, searching for unfamiliar features, wondering, is that him? That longing didn't disappear, it grew. When I left home when I was 17, while others were preparing for graduation, I was trying to survive. Working, supporting myself, earning my GED, and somewhere in that process, I built something. A strong woman. The strong Black woman. The one who would carry everything. The one who didn't need help. The one who would never be controlled again. I became everything. Mother, provider, decision maker, caretaker. I raised my children. I went to school. I earned my degrees. I had a great career. From the outside, it really looked like strength. But really on the inside, I was so overwhelmed, anxious, resentful, and most of all, still alone. Then I met a man during one of the hardest seasons of my life. I was on the edge of homelessness, trying to take care of my children, trying to survive. And when I met him, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Peace. Not because he gave it to me, but because for a moment, I felt safe enough to breathe. We built a life. We had children. We moved forward. But even in that life, I was still the one carrying everything, making the decisions, running the household, holding it all together. And slowly, that same old feeling returned: loneliness. Because strength without support becomes isolation. And then there was another winter come into my life, another relationship. This one felt different. He spoke to my mind, my growth, my potential. He said things like, "I see who you can become. You are my queen. Iron sharpens iron." And something in me responded, because that little girl who once looked out that bus window was still there, still wanting to be seen, still wanting to be chosen. But what I didn't understand at this time was I wasn't choosing him from my spirit. I was choosing him from my wounds. The wounds of absence, the wounds of not being chosen, the wounds of wanting someone to recognize my worth. And for a moment, it felt like the grass was greener, until I realized it had been fertilized with something altogether entirely different. And that's when it hit me, the pattern. Different people, same feeling. I was intelligent. I could explain everything, but intelligence didn't seem to change the outcome, because intelligence doesn't heal wounds. Wisdom does. And wisdom required me to stop and look inward and ask, what seed am I still carrying? I reconnected with my father when I was 27. I saw him differently. I judged him. I was disappointed in who he was and who he hadn't become. But the truth is, I was standing on a high place. I was thinking that I had grown, when in reality, I was still in that place of healing as well. That's when everything changed. I stopped searching for love outside of me and started searching within. I dated myself. I wrote. I reflected. I began separating the choices I made from the wounds that influenced them. I started shedding all of my labels, because labels can hide you from yourself. And underneath everything, I found truth. I was never broken. I was a beautiful spirit, learning how to heal a wounded soul. So this week, I want you to look at your life like a garden. Ask yourself, what seeds were planted in me before I understood them? What patterns have been growing from those seeds? And what would it look like to heal the soul within me? Because you may not have chosen your roots. You may not have controlled the wind, but you can choose what you plant next. And beneath every wound, there is still a beautiful spirit waiting to be seen. Until next time, keep growing. Remember, you are a beautiful spirit learning to heal a wounded soul. So, tend to your soil, choose your seeds wisely, and let everything you release be filled with light and love. Search for the peace and the peace of the Lord within you. This is Imana, and these are the Dandelion Chronicles.